All right, everybody, you know what time it is. The Real Talk Sports Show is coming up right now. Bam! Welcome to the Real Talk Sports Show. I'm your host, the Minister, Jonathan Simmons. We thank God for all those of you who are watching us here on various platforms. And we also want to give a big shout out and thanks to those of you who are watching us on the archive replay. Appreciate you very much for doing that. And of course, we got to give a big shout out to those folks who are listening to us on the legendary WIGO Pacesetter 1570 AM on your dial. Appreciate you. And also those of you listening online at WIGO1570.com. Appreciate each and every one of you for being with us. And again, we want to remind you, in case you don't know, follow us everywhere on social media. Subscribe to our channel. We have a Real Talk Sports channel on YouTube. But more importantly, follow us anywhere on social media as well. The Real Talk Sports, the number 7. That's you can find us anywhere on social media. So please, ma'am, please, sir, come on and subscribe to the show because we appreciate you for doing that. All right. It's Saturday weekend update. For those of you in Atlanta, you already know what time it is. It is a little bit murky outside. It's kind of a rainy, dreary day. But the good news is that temperatures are quite mild. We're up around 60 degrees today, so really not that bad. If in case you do have to go out. Now I will tell you, not disappointed because I wouldn't have been able to be there until later in the day, but kind of disappointed about the idea of the high school football playoffs have been moved to the middle of the week. Yeah, so those of you who are in the Atlanta area, you know that Atlanta is a hotbed for high school football. And right now, the situation is that normally what they used to do, which always was tremendous, and we want to give a big shout out to the Falcons and the people at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for allowing this to happen. What the Falcons would do is they would allow the high schools for the finals to be able to play the championship games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is really a cool thing. And I tell you guys, it was quite the spectacle. I remember covering this over the years. And you go down there on a Saturday, well, actually it starts on a Friday night, but it is phenomenal to see all of these school buses roll in to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and you have the police officers, one after the other, and they literally coming from all over the state of Georgia, down in South Georgia, down Valdosta and places like that, and Lowndes County, and then way up in the north in Rome, and just these schools coming from all over the place to come in and square off to see who was going to be the high school football champion for that particular year. And teams would bring in their cheerleaders and bands. Sometimes I remember they'd have bands 100 strong. And it was a great thing because, like I said, again, on Saturday, it gave people an opportunity to not have to take time off of work and to come on and watch their young kids play. Unfortunately, like I said, again, that will not be happening this year. It still will be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but what they're doing is they actually have a situation where it is going to be played during the week. So the games are going to be played during the week in the afternoon and the evening time. So go to ghsa.org, I think it is, or go to the Georgia Public Broadcasting site, which I believe is gbp.org, yeah, Georgia Public Broadcasting.org. Go ahead and check them out, and it will give you the schedule of the games. I believe the games are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or when the games are being played. So if you have a chance to get out there, please, ma'am, again, please, sir, come out there and support the kids. They would love to have you out there to cheer them on. And it is a phenomenal day because, like I said, these young people get a chance to actually go out and play on the same field that the Atlanta Falcons play on. So how cool is that? And so while we're doing that, we want to give a big shout out to folks on our side of town. We like to call it the South Side. We're on the South Side of Atlanta, and not one, not two, but 4 teams from South Side of Atlanta have made the championship game. That's right. So first of all, we have right down the road from us here in Henry County, the Stockbridge Tigers. Now the Tigers rock the orange and green like the University of Miami. Stockbridge, I believe this is the first time that they are going to have a chance to play to win the state championship. Number 2, from South Fulton County. This is a team, South Fulton, and from Fulton County. They are maybe about 20 minutes south of the airport here in Atlanta. The Creekside Seminoles are back in the finals. Now, this is a big deal for them because it celebrates the 10th anniversary of the last time they went to the finals and won. And it's very poignant around this win because they had a young man that was one of the star defensive backs. I believe it was either in a scrimmage or in a practice at the beginning of that season. Guy makes a routine tackle and somehow or another suffers a severe spinal injury that unfortunately takes his life. So they dedicated that season to the young man, and they went 14-0 and capped the season off with a victory. So it's the 10th anniversary of that win. And another great player, speaking from the past, that was on that team, not on that particular team, but has come from Creekside High School, is Eric Berry, another young man that dealt with a huge challenge, suffered from cancer, actually had to stop playing. He was a star safety in the NFL, actually an all-pro safety in the NFL, had to actually take a season off. And thankfully, the Lord allowed him to not only battle that cancer, but to be able to come back and play in the NFL. So big shout out to the Creekside Seminoles. Number 3, Cedar Grove, the Cedar Grove Saints. How about that name? Cedar Grove, the team, this is their 4th consecutive appearance in the finals in Class 3A. They won the first 2 times they went and were on the road to attempt to win 3 straight when a controversial call cost them the victory last year. But Cedar Grove, after losing a couple of games during the year, many people thinking they were not the same team, they are back in the finals, and they will hopefully be able to win their 3rd championship in the last 4 years. And last but not least, also from the south side of Fulton County, the Woodward Academy. Woodward Academy has been a team that has consistently been in the playoffs over the years. They won state titles back in 1980 and in 1990. They are back in the finals again, trying to win their first NFL, win their first state title here in this 2021st century. So those are big 4 teams that we're going to be supporting. Again, Stockbridge High School, located in Henry County, the Tigers doing their thing. Creekside Indians from South Fulton County, along with Woodward Academy, also from South Fulton County. And from South DeKalb County, Cedar Grove Saints wrap up our top 4 South Side teams that are playing. So again, guys, if you get a chance to follow these teams, please, man, please, sir, please do. Like I said, support these young people as they go out here and, again, do their thing out on the gridiron. Well, we're going to take a quick little break here, and then we'll get back to you and talk to you more about what is going on around everywhere. We got high school football, we got college football, we got college basketball coming to town, coming up next weekend. We also have a non-sports event coming up. We have what they call the Mayor's Mass Ball. It is the primary support and fundraiser event for the UNCF, which is the United Negro College Fund, which supports our HBCUs. Last year, that event alone, just that event, raised over $2 million. And I am told that they've already raised $2 million already. They're over the $2 million mark, and they are trying to be, I think, the first city to get $3 million worth of donations for the UNCF. So that's going to be going on next weekend. Also, speaking of HBCUs, it is the de facto Black College Football Championship coming up. That's right. We have that coming up in the upcoming year. And what that will be is, upcoming week. It'll be next week on Saturday, 12 noon, high noon. And the two first-time contestants will be playing in that game. It will be the Howard University Bisons against the FAMU Rattlers. So you can expect Atlanta is going to be rocking and rattling next week as these two legendary programs in terms of name recognition for HBCUs will be there. And certainly FAMU has had, back in earlier decades, they were one of the great teams in HBCU college football history. So I know many of the OGs out there that are still around are excited to see the Rattlers back in the mix. First time both of these teams will be playing in the Celebration Bowl, and good Lord willing, we will be there to bring it to you from on the scene. We will be on Radio Row on Friday. So if you are downtown, come on by, check us out. We'll be on Radio Row. I think it's at the Omni Hotel. And also we'll make appearances at the Fan Fest. So if you see us there, give us a shout out. And as we support HBCU sports and especially football. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the upcoming segment, some of the things that they do behind the scenes as well. Also in this broadcast, when we're talking about the Atlanta Hawks, we're talking about them in the next segment. A very frustrating team to watch. Not sure what to think about them. Want to get you a feel from the college football playoffs. We're going to ask you guys to please, as we get into that segment, we'd like to hear your calls. You can call the station 404-361-1571, or in fact, you can but you can put your post on social media, and we'll be more than happy to shout you out and, see what you have to say about all these events. And then last but not least, guys, we're going to talk the NFL, and we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Another team that continues to baffle, but I don't want to go negative. Let's look at it like this. The realities are the Falcons have, in fact, righted the ship somewhat as they now find themselves at 500. That's right. The Falcons are actually at 500 now, and they also are in first place in the NFC South. Now, a lot of people said nothing to brag about, but that's okay. So we'll talk about that in our final segment as well. And then, in your comments, anything that you'd like to talk about, please pop it up on social media. You can do so, and we will go ahead and do a little discourse on the Real Talk Sports Show as we do our Saturday sports update, as we do each and every Saturday here on WIGO, the legendary WIGO, page set of 1570. And also, you guys are looking in the background. They said, Minister, where are you at? I do my broadcast every other week live from the offices of Allen Vigil Ford and Lincoln. Now, for those of you who don't know, that's kind of my a real job, so to speak. That's the one that actually pays my fare. Allen Vigil Ford and Lincoln is located right down the road here at in Morrow, Georgia, with 6790 Mount Zion Boulevard in the city of Morrow, Georgia. And you would not believe some of the great things we have going on right now. I know a lot of you have been looking for cars and looking for things that kind of, get to some type of normalcy. Well, wait till I tell you what we got going on after the commercial break. You got to definitely keep the show locked on here. I know you're locked in for sports, but you got to listen to after our break to let you know what is going on with automobiles, with what we have to offer here at Ford and Lincoln and pre-owned cars. One thing I can say is the good times are back. So again, stay tuned as we talk to you more about that after our commercial break, which actually, like I said, again, we're going to, I normally do the 10:15 segment, but I think I'm going to run just a little bit ahead. I'm going to give a big shout out to our producer behind the glass. She's back there at WIGO, Miss Erica. We thank her for, every Saturday being here and not only helping my show, obviously, but all the people over at WIGO 1570 on the down, WIGO1570.com. Like I said, guys, we're going to take an early break. We'll talk to you a little bit after the break about all the good stuff that's going on in buying a car. You just can't believe it. All right, keep it locked right here for more of the Real Talk Sports Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net.
Welcome to the Real Talk Sports Show. I'm Aria, the first AI presenter for Real Talk Sports. We want to get your feedback about my participations in the show, so please leave comments. So stay tuned, the Real Talk Sports Show is coming up.
All right, guys, we're back here. You are watching and listening to the Real Talk Sports Show. I'm your host, Minister Jonathan Simmons, and we're broadcasting to you live here from my office here at Allen Vigil Ford in Lincoln. You also can listen to us right now if you're in your car, which you might be driving to spend your money, your Christmas money. You can check us out on the dial, 1570 AM. You also can find us online at WIGO1570.com, and you can find us on multiple social media platforms, including Facebook Live, YouTube Live. We're also on Twitch, and if you're at the house, do you have Roku? Well, check this out. Go on Roku and search for Tiki Live. When you pull that up, put in that search engine. I'm drawing a blank. Put in the search engine the Phoenix Entertainment Group. My partner, Gary Booker, is going to strangle me. But anyway, go on to Phoenix Entertainment Group. And not only can you find the live broadcast, but you also can find some of our archive broadcasts. You can find some of the football games that we did over the years. So check out, again, the Phoenix Entertainment Group via Tiki Live on Roku. So you can watch us on the big screen, baby. And check us out there. All right, so let's go ahead and shift gears. You know, we're always talking a second segment, some basketball. Before we get into the Hawks, just to let you guys know that college basketball has started. Big shout out to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got a new coach this year, and after starting off a little mediocre, they have won 2 games in a row against top 25 opponents, including a top 10 opponent in Duke University. And for those of you OG Techsters, I know you're almost dancing in the street. It used to be back in the 80s and 90s and some point in the early 2000s when Tech was actually themselves a top 25 and oftentimes a top 10 power. You can talk to people that went to Georgia Tech in the 80s and 90s, and they will tell you, especially when Coach Bobby Cremins went here, it was just must-see TV. Literally, in Georgia Tech's sports heyday, which is, including if you focus on basketball, probably mid to late 80s through early 90s, you come here for a game, Georgia Tech versus North Carolina, Georgia Tech versus Duke. The line to get in was to McCamish was around the building. You know, sometimes people would camp out overnight to make sure they had tickets to the game. It's not that level yet, but it is good to see that Georgia Tech is back being relevant in college basketball. So big shout out to Georgia Tech, and we look forward to bringing you some coverage of them later on this year. Other big thing happening here in Atlanta for basketball is that you have the CBS Sports Classic. And what they do is they bring in 4 of the kind of marquee teams from over the years in to play this game. This year it's UCLA, I believe North Carolina. What's the other team? Duke, I think maybe. I'll get it all for you. But anyway, it's a big tournament that goes on here at State Farm Arena. Matter of fact, let me just take a little sidebar here. If you see me looking off to the side, you're saying, brother, what you doing? I'm looking to make sure I have the right teams for you. Again, it's a CBS Sports Classic, and they bring in 4 legendary teams that have been, amongst the top teams in college basketball over the years. So let's go ahead and look at the teams that will be playing here. Again, 4 teams coming into State Farm Arena. Let's pull it up here and get the teams for you so we can be accurate as we talk about this, because literally we'll be down there covering some of this game. We're going to be doing a triple header. All right, CBS Sports Classic to take a look at the teams that will be playing in that. Hopefully we will get that up for you here in just a moment. Please bear with me as I get that. Let me go back here. CBS Sports Classic. Teams. I need the teams, buddy boy. The teams. Here we go. The teams that are playing: Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio State, and the UCLA Bruins. All 4 of those teams, of course, are teams that have had a history of great success in college basketball. They've won between them multiple national titles, and those games will be on display here right at State Farm Arena. So if you're a college basketball aficionado, if you want to see some teams that are probably going to be playing in the NCAA tournament, going deep into the tournament, that game will actually be held this Saturday. Those are going to be held this Saturday right at State Farm Arena. You can go on to CBS Sports website. You can go on to Ticketmaster and find tickets to that game. So if you want to see some big-time college basketball and not have to pay, out the wazoo or travel somewhere, this is it. These are 4 Blue Bloods, baby. Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio State, and UCLA will all be playing at State Farm Arena in the CBS Sports Classic. So if you can get out there, folks, check them out again. It'll be Saturday. And I think first game tip-off is 3 p.m. So come on out and check them out. Now, speaking of basketball, The Atlanta Hawks go down to defeat against the 76ers last night. Once again, the Hawks continue to disappoint. Now in their third year after their magical run at the end of the 2021 season, where they actually got to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I believe had they not been Trae Young had not gotten injured, they might they might have been able to get past the Bucs and get to the NBA Finals. And when that happened, everybody thought, hey, all right, we're here. The Hawks are maybe one player away, not even a player away. They thought we had a great core with Trae Young and John Collins and Kevin Huerter. We said, okay, we got what we need here. DeAndre Hunter, we got the pieces in place. This team is dynamic. This team is exciting to watch. It was must-see TV from the second half of the season when they changed coaches and went to Nate McMillan on through the playoffs. Trae Young was as clutch, as spectacular, and as fun as any basketball player we've seen in Atlanta since Dominique Wilkins. I mean, we saw spectacular passing. We saw electrifying three-point shooting. Range was unlimited. And the biggest thing is we saw clutch play. I mean, we saw buzzer beaters. We saw game winners, not like we've seen before with the Hawks. And the team was excited. We had really not seen this kind of basketball since the 2015 season, where, big shout out to the team that was led by Coach Bud. That team had Al Horford and it had Jeff Teague and it had Damari Carroll. It had, who was our sharpshooter, Cal Korver, who's now a assistant VP with the Hawks. That team, during the regular season, they kind of fizzled out in the postseason. But that team was the last time we had that kind of fun and excitement and energy about taking the next step. Well, unfortunately, since then, the Hawks have went through another two coaches. I should say the one coach got rid of Nate and then his interim coach, and brought in Quinn Snyder, a guy who had won 50 games with the Utah Jazz on multiple occasions. But so far, it's not been what we expected. They were under 500 under Quinn Snyder last year, got out of the playoffs after getting into the play-in round. And this year, although they're the number 2 scoring team in the NBA, have continued to drive fans, and I think coaches crazy, as they cannot find a way to consistently win. Although they are, like I said, the second best offensive team in the NBA, they're amongst the worst teams in the NBA defensively, and that reared its ugly head again last night in their 125-114 loss against the 76ers. Hawks now have plummeted to 9-12, and this is a team that we expected to be at least 12-9 during the same point of the season, thinking that, hey, they now had 20-plus games last season, playoff games, and then a full preseason, offseason to get in step with the program that Coach Quinn Snyder has laid out, which has primarily been a program of pushing the ball and launching a lot more three-pointers, which, again, like I said, they're scoring at will. Number 2 behind the unexpectedly high-powered Indiana Pacers. Like I said, defensively, they've been terrible. And the crazy thing about it is they are amongst the league leaders in team steals. They have almost 9 steals a game. Trae Young and DeJounte Murray both in the top 15, I believe top 15 or 20 in the NBA in steals. Trae Young, a guy who everybody says defensive liability, he has learned through DeJounte's tutoring how to play the passing lanes. And the other thing the Hawks do is they have what I like to call active hands. And I first saw that here in Atlanta with Coach Bud, where he said, hey, it's tough sometimes when an opponent is taller, they're more physical. So what you have to do is to play smart defense and find ways to get into passing lanes and find ways, like I said, to have active hands. So when a big man is in the paint, or if a big man is trying to make a move, even if the guy gets by you, you want to consistently be poking at that ball. And like I said, it's worked great for the Hawks as they've had 9+ steals on average per game. But like I said, the problem is defensively, this team is they're just not a good team. And I thought initially the situation was that, okay, they're having problems stopping the bigs, which they do. But really, it's an overall defensive problem as far as once the opponent gets the ball and they get anywhere there near their area, the Hawks seem to not be able to defend them properly. The other thing the Hawks do a terrible job on, and this has been a problem for years, and an inability to close out on players shooting threes. It really is a very baffling thing, and the easy thing would be to blame Trae Young. Oh, he's a coach killer, and he's gone through 3 coaches. But at the end of the day, this year I really can't say much. It's almost like a couple of years ago. I mean, statistically, and a lot of people say stats can fool you, but statistically, he's doing pretty much what you want him to do. He's averaging somewhere between 21 and 25 points a game. He's second in the league in assists. He's in double digits on average. I think he's averaging 10.7 assists per game. Matter of fact, let's be accurate. Let's go ahead and get those stats up for you for Trae Young. So you guys can take a look here, and I can be on point. Now, last night he did not play. So once again, you can't blame it on him that the Hawks lost. But let's take a look at his stats so far this year and look at his stats overall. And I know, like I said, again, there are people who have said, oh, they play better without him. There are times that's true. But this year, like I said, he's having a decent year. I mean, the only place where he really seems to continue to be struggling, and like I said, even this year he's improved, is his 3-point shooting. It was floundering in the low 30s. At least this year it's back up to 35.2. Overall field goal percentage, 41.2% from the field. But like I said, again, I mean, how can you get on this guy? He's averaging 27 points a game. Okay, his last thing, he's 27.2 points a game, 10.6 assists per game, and 1.5 steals a game. I mean, what can you really say? I mean, we can talk about him being a problem, but I don't know what kind of problem you're saying there. I mean, those stats there, I mean, if you just took his name away and said, we want to add a superstar to our team and these are his stats, would you take him? The answer probably is yes. The reality is there's a disconnect, and some people say it's his leadership, and he's come out and said, I'm not really that kind of guy. He's not like his running partner, Dejounte Murray, who's a little bit more forceful, a guy who's a little bit more of a true leader. He says he's not that, but it's irrelevant. His numbers speak for themselves. 27.2 and 10.6 assists per game. I don't know. I mean, what the problem I think is with this Hawks team is that it is a situation where they don't really have enough firepower at the bigs. Now, don't get me wrong. Okongwu, he's been a great find. Clint Capella continues to be a solid center, even though he gives away a lot of height. The reality is he's always amongst the top 10 in rebounding. And so, that's what you want out of your center. And he's always a double-digit scorer. He usually is a double-double every single game. So he's not the problem either. I think, again, it gets down to the Hawks' ability to defend. They have to find a better way to do man-on-man defending. The other thing is they're going to have to improve their three-point shooting, because I know that the coach wants them to shoot a lot of threes, but right now they don't shoot them too well. Now, I take a look at last night's game against the 76ers, and we look at these stats for the team. Let's go ahead and take a look here, and you see this is a huge problem here. The team is 13 to 39 from threes. They got 33%. Now, of course, the Sixers hit on 35% on those, but the Hawks actually took 17 more shots than the Sixers. They took 104 shots, but they only hit 41. So overall from the field, they were only 39%. So now you got a situation where this team just has got to find a way to do a better job closing in terms of scoring, and also closing out games. That's the big problem. If I look at this game here last night, this is kind of the typical thing we see with the Hawks. They're kind of a one-half team. So last night they came out and showed you why they're one of the top scoring teams in the league. They actually had a halftime lead of 68 to 62. They scored 45 points in the second quarter. 45 points. That's a ton of points. But unfortunately, they didn't close out. In the second half, they only scored 46 points in the second half. 24 in the third, 22 in the second, as Philadelphia clamped down and overtook the Hawks and won the game, going away 125 to 114. It's just, like I said, very, very frustrating watching this team. And I really don't know what it is. It's not just Trae Young. I just think They kind of messed around with the chemistry when they had Herder and they had Collins. And people can say what they want about John Collins, but I think that team had some decent chemistry. Now, a lot of people said that John and Trey kind of had their issues, but I think the trading away Kevin Huter, that was kind of a problem because Herder was a good 3-point shooter, had some range, and, played clutch in that, 2021 run they had to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, guys, I'd like to hear your opinion. I've been rambling on. What do you think about the Hawks as we go to a break? You can put your information on social media. You got a question or whatever, please, we'd love to have you on the broadcast. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be back with more of the Real Talk Sports Show in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Please, please don't do it. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Allen Vigil Ford in Morrow, Georgia also has Lincoln? Over 35 years of using the Vigil Touch to provide excellent customer service, works hand in hand with the Lincoln Motor Company to provide a luxurious and seamless way to acquire your next luxury vehicle. Lincoln has an array of full-service complimentary owner benefits. These benefits include hospitality partnerships, service pickup and delivery, all which can be accessed through the Lincoln Way app. You can even contact the 24/7 concierge to have someone assist you. Come and see our great inventory of new and pre-owned Lincolns today. Call 678-364-7345 to make an appointment with one of our brand champions or shop 24/7 online at allenvigillincoln.net.
This is OJ Howard with Real Talk Sports.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're listening to Real Talk Sports.
This is Charles Woodson. Let me grab the mic. You ready? This is Charles Woodson with Real Talk Sports. Hey, it's your boy JB Smooth with Real Talk Sports.
All right, here we are back here for the second half of the Real Talk Sports Show. I am your host, Minister Jonathan Simmons. And again, we appreciate all those of you tuning in to watch, especially those who are watching us on the replay. Big shout out to you for those of you watching the archive. That means that you took time out of your busy schedule to say, hey, we couldn't catch you live, but we want to go ahead and catch you anyway to support the show. Now, here's the real way you can support the show. Please follow us anywhere on social media at Real Talk Sports, the number 7, including YouTube now. We've changed this, so I just wanted one way to find us. Real Talk Sports, the number 7. That's it. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, aka X, I guess they call it now, Facebook, and on Twitch, everywhere. We're Real Talk Sports, the number 7. So check us out and follow us right there. All right, shifting gears now, going to college football. And then there were 4. Now, of course, as you know, we are down to the final 4 contestants for the college football playoffs. And there are some couple of teams on the outside thinking we should have been in here. And, of course, I'm talking about the Seminoles of Florida State and the Bulldogs from Georgia. First of all, let's take a look at the Seminoles. A lot of people felt that, and especially Seminole fans, like, hey, man, we got a job. We are in a Power 5 conference. We won the conference, and we won all the games that we played, 13-0. And so normally that's a recipe for us to get into playoffs. Not 2023, boys, you're out. Number 2, you had the Georgia Bulldogs, number 1 virtually all year long. Number 1 in the country. 29-1 in their last 30 games, including the loss, I believe, to Alabama. A 2-time defending college football champion. Runner-up in the SEC. 1 loss the entire season. They'd be in, right? Out of there. No chance for them to defend their title and go for an epic and unprecedented 3rd straight college football championship. Instead, our final 4 teams are as follows. In case you don't know, let's review it again. The Michigan Wolverines moved up from number 2 to number 1. The Washington Huskies, a team that at one point had been the outside looking in, number 4 to number 2. The Texas Longhorns, a ginormous jump from number 7 all the way to number 3. And last but not least, another big jumper. Alabama going from number 8 to number 4. So Texas and Alabama both make a 4-digit jump in the college football standings to find themselves going from being outside looking in to in the middle of it. And Georgia, meanwhile, after being number one virtually the whole season, I believe dropped all the way down to number 5 or 6. All these things are unprecedented. Never happened before. You never had a number one team fall completely out of the playoffs after a single loss, especially a loss that they had in their conference title game and with a team that basically had 2 key players injured and still end up losing the game by just 3 points. They're one of the best teams in the country, but they're out of the mix completely now. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think, first of all, that Florida State should have been in? Go and pop it up on social media for me, or you can call and let our good buddy know back at the studio, Miss Erica, that what you think about that. Or if you're a Bulldog fan, I know a lot of you Bulldog fans are out there. Do you think the Bulldogs should have been in? Do you think it should have been a situation where, like, hey, look, we're SEC runner-up. Only loss was in the SEC championship game. Like I said, 2-time defending champion. Should Georgia have been allowed to at least get a shot to defend their title? What do you think? Again, if you want to call in, it's 404-361-1571. Erica, field your phone call, and she'll post me up on social media and let me know. Or you can put it in right now on social media, whether you think the college football playoffs committee got it right, or whether you think either Florida State or Georgia should have gotten in there. For me, it's really not a matter of shoulda, coulda, woulda. In the case of Georgia, they kind of messed themselves up. Georgia basically, it's a shame you have to think about this being 13-0, you got to win to get in. But the reality is that was the case, because once Alabama had lost to Texas, there was no way you're going to put Alabama in and not have Texas in, because Texas beat them head-to-head. Even though when Texas won, it was early in the year, and Alabama clearly is not the same team now that they were in September. But the realities are you just can't leave out a team that beat another team in the playoffs. And number 2, I don't care what kind of situation that Georgia was looking at. There was no way they were going to put 2 SEC teams in when, like I said again, one of the teams that was sitting at 1 loss had beaten one of the contestants. It's not going to happen. And so Georgia basically found themselves out as Alabama gave them a double whammy. Alabama losing to Texas and then beating Georgia in the SEC title is what knocked Georgia out. So, Bulldog fans, I know you're watching and listening, think you should have been in, but this year, there's no way that the committee could have put them in. Not possible. Like I said, the Alabama loss, and we put that aside. So, do I think the committee got it right? Absolutely, under the circumstances they have. Now, a lot of people say, are they the 4 best teams? We can kind of get into that if you like, but at the end of the day, there are kind of rules in place. And the rules that you have is you can't put one team in that in head-to-head mission lost to another team, they have identical record, and leave that team out. So like I said, again, that's what really kind of sealed the fate for Georgia. And clearly you couldn't have put Georgia ahead of Washington, who was undefeated, beat Oregon, a top 10 team, not once but twice, and was undefeated. You can't. And last thing about the Georgia thing is really, which nailed the coffin, the realities are, guys, that Georgia's schedule was, of the top 10 teams, one of the weakest schedules out there. The schedule was terrible. Now, it's not Georgia's fault that Florida is in a decline, but it is what it is. Florida's just not a good team. So win over them. I mean, it's a rivalry game, but kind of who cares? You look at Missouri, good team, but not a team that, if you said, hey, we're going to play the Missouri Tigers, and rightfully, wrongfully, that's not a team you're thinking, I'm scared of them. Ole Miss, did they beat the brakes off? And they did, but Ole Miss, again, you're talking a lower tier top 20 team, even though I think they're ranked at 12 or 13. I don't know how accurate that is. And outside that, they just didn't play teams with a lot of depth. They just didn't. You're playing a lot of really soft teams. And then, last but not least, like Florida, the entire SEC East is down. Now, I know Kentucky had been playing well to a point, but after the Georgia loss, they kind of fell off the table. So wins that normally would be impactful, the Kentucky win, the Florida win, didn't really have the same juice that they've had in years before. Even the South Carolina win, that's another team that had underperformed under Shane Beamer after their great run last year, underperformed. So the teams in the SEC East that Georgia did beat, it was kind of like they were second-tier SEC teams. So the schedule didn't have the bite it usually had. In the case of Florida State, to some degree, some of the same, but the real thing is that they have a marquee quarterback that was not going to play. And rightfully or wrongfully, you combine that with a weakened ACC, Florida State is going to be out. And Florida State, all you are listening, I mean, the realities are, I know your defense was very good this year, but do you really think you could beat any of those 4 teams or even 5 teams you want to include Georgia? Do you really think you could beat any of those teams? I think the answer is no. Again, what do you think? Hit us up on social media. We're right there. We're on YouTube. Those of you who are watching, go ahead, put your comments in. I can see them, and then I can respond to your comments. So if you got something to say, folks, put it on the screen right now, and we will go ahead and do it here. Let's see here. Let's see here if I can go to social media. I guess we do have some comments. Todd was saying, okay, talking about the Hawks, he was saying, hey, what happened to Mr. Young, then preacher? He's not the same player. And then Todd also mentioned here on social media, Dominique never brought a $20 million home in L.A. He was Atlanta true and true. I questioned Mr. Young's intent to be here. And then now we're getting the football season. And he said, preacher, Alabama wins it all. Big boys beat little boys. So Todd is fully in the Alabama camp. Well, for those of you who watch our Tuesday night show, what you will know is that we all had a chance to pick. Myself, the Queen, Tree Dolman, the Hall of Famer, Tyrone Poole. Queen, of course, she is a Michigander, so she picked the Michigan Wolverines to finally win their first college football playoff championship. Tyrone, old school Southern man, he said, same thing. He said, listen, that front line is stout for Alabama. They can run the ball, and they got a quarterback that can control the game, running the ball as well and passing. They're talking about Jalen Milroe, and he said, I'm going with them. Me personally, I'm going to take an outlier. I believe the number 2 Washington Huskies are going to take this whole thing. I tell you why I say that, because the Huskies and Michael Penix Jr. They have an outstanding team. But more importantly, Tyrone said something about, well, if you can't run the ball, it's tough for you to win. I found out something in doing a little research today that you got to watch out, because Washington has a running back that has put up some nice numbers. I'm going to go ahead and pull these stats out here. And I was pleasantly surprised at this young man's ability to run the football. Let's take a look here at this Washington team, and you guys will see that, hey, man, they can do some work. They have a running back, wears number 7, and he's a 1,000-yard rusher. And so they really actually do have a running attack. They have a guy that has not only is a 1,000-yard rusher, but more importantly, he has had the ability to play well against top 25 teams. He's averaging over 100 yards a game against top quality teams. And as you know, guys, that's the thing that really counts. The idea that you can, put up big stats against clown teams, teams that don't have good defenses, teams that are second-tier teams. But at the end of the day, this young man has put up some nice numbers. I'm going to grab these numbers here while we are talking here, if you don't mind. They're giving me the Washington Commanders. I don't want that. Here we go. Let's look at the Washington Huskies stats. Like I mentioned, Michael Penix Jr. is a Heisman Trophy candidate. But the unsung hero for this Washington team is Dylan Johnson, number 7. Dylan Johnson. He is a guy that rushed for over 1,100 yards during the season, and he averaged about 5 yards a carry. But like I said, the big thing to really watch out here for him is that he was able to post nice numbers, average over 100 yards a game against top 25 competition. He hung up 256 against USC. Matter of fact, let's go to the stats here. That's why you see me looking off to the side here. I'm getting the stats up here for you. Let's take a peek here at these stats. Okay, against the AP top 25 teams, they had, I believe, 5 games against these teams. He rushed 113 times for 701 yards at 6.2 yards a carry and 8 touchdowns, including a masterful performance against the USC Trojans, who at the time were in the top 20. In a 52-42 win, he rushed the ball 26 times for 256 yards and had 4 touchdowns. Not too shabby. And like you said, in all these games against top quality competition, not clowns, top 25 teams, the young man averaged 6.2 yards a carry. And the reason why that's important is you got a Heisman Trophy quarterback and Michael Penix Jr., a guy that we know can sling it. So when you combine a good running attack with an outstanding quarterback, you have all the makings of a team that can put up, which Washington did, a bunch of points. Now, don't get me wrong. Michigan, Texas and Alabama all have stout defenses. And Texas showed that they can play big boy football as they knock off Alabama early in the season. And you see how they closed out Oklahoma State in that Big 12 championship. They ran them out of there. I think the final score was like 42-19. So, they're going to have their hands full with Texas. But I just think that with a Heisman Trophy candidate at the quarterback helm, I think with a running back that has shown that he is able to play well against big quality competition, I think that's what you're going to get, guys. I think you're going to get a Washington victory. All right, guys, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk to you more on the Real Talk Sports Show. Don't go anywhere. Keep it locked for more of the show. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Thank you, and thank you very much.
The day has arrived. It's time to let more people know about your business. You have the right marketing plan and the messaging in place. But do you have the right messenger? Good advertising and promotions need a professional sound so the message can be clearly understood. Don't leave your brand image to chance. Let our team of voiceover experts at CME lend you a hand. Give us a call at 678-304-8121 to find out how we can partner with you to give your business its voice. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net.
Coming up next, it's the Real Talk Sports Show, bringing you great sports talk with perspective. Now, here's our host, Jonathan Simmons.
All right, guys, we're back here, the final segment of the Real Talk Sports Show. Again, I'm your host and minister, Jonathan Simmons. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us here on the Real Talk Sports Show. We appreciate you. Hey, just want to do this, like I said, again, today we're kind of multitasking. We're actually doing most of the broadcasts on our phone. So I appreciate all those of you on social media. I didn't get a chance to pop your comments up earlier. I'm going to do so right now before we go on with our final segment, which is the NFL and the Falcons. Morris Shields says, don't forget the Peach Bowl. We got Fort Valley State against, I think that's Jackson State. I believe the Beach Bowl, they call it. That's down in Florida. Sean Jarrett says to us, good morning. And Morris Shields reminded me, actually, this game, the game we just mentioned here, that's a HBCU game, Fort Valley State against, I think it's Jackson State, is actually going to be played at Tulane Stadium. Sean Jarrett says, what's up with the Trey Young injury? Not sure on that. I'll have to find out more about that. Hopefully, I'll have some information before the end of the broadcast. But again, we thank God for those of you who have jumped in here on social media. And sorry, it took me a while to comment. But like I said, again, unfortunately, I'm on my phone this morning, so I couldn't see a lot of your comments, but appreciate those of you who have jumped in to talk to us here on social media, and appreciate those of you who have been listening on the legendary WIGO Pacesetter 1570. All right, let's go jump to the NFL really quickly. As you know, last week in a battle of the big boys, the Philadelphia Eagles got waxed by the 49ers. 49, I believe the final score was 42-21. No contest there, as the 49ers look like a Super Bowl team. They look stout. I mean, they are a well-balanced team, a team that really has no weaknesses when you look at them, and they handed it to the Eagles. Yeah, it was 42-19 score against the Eagles. I mean, Jalen Hurts acquitted himself okay, 26 of 45, 298 yards and one touchdown. But the guy who probably should be in the short list of MVP candidates, Brock Purdy, continues to just obliterate NFL defenses. In that game against the Eagles, 19-27, 314 yards, 4 touchdown passes. Deebo Samuel, the real Swiss Army knife, 4 receptions for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. And another guy who, same thing, should be on that short list on the MVP candidates, a guy that the Carolina Panthers stupidly traded away. Christian McCaffrey is on pace for a 2,000-yard season, 17 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown against the Eagles. Over 1,100 yards already in the season, and they still have about 6 or 7 games left to go. The 49ers, I think, made a huge statement that, hey, whatever you guys are thinking, you guys have been talking about the Eagles, you guys have been talking about, in some cases, the Cowboys, you guys have been talking about the surprising Detroit Lions. San Francisco, like, listen, we're having none of that. We got playmakers all over the field on offense. I didn't even mention George Kittle, all-pro tight end on offense. And on defense, led by young Mr. Bosa, this defense that Frisco has is just stout. And last but not least, as much as Atlanta fans don't want to talk about, Kyle Shanahan has proven that he is right now the best play caller in the NFL, hands down. And he really had that moniker for a while. This guy he knows how to call plays. Let's go to social media here. My man Todd says, Preacher, how did NFL scouts miss on Purdy? Yeah, because he was literally the last guy selected in the NFL draft, which is crazy. That all these teams missed out on this guy who is literally balled out all season. I'll take a little sip of water. My throat is scratchy. How did that happen? I don't know. And meanwhile, back here at the ranch, the Falcons fans, excuse me, they're questioning how we have a guy that was picked number 4, excuse me, picked number 4 overall, and he's finding trouble having better stats than tight ends on his own team. I'm talking about, of course, Kyle Pitt, as we shift now to the Falcons. Now, I will say this in defense of Kyle Pitt, I don't think the guy should have even played the game until about right now. Because clearly he's not 100%. Clearly he's not. And not only is he not 100%, it shows up on the field. And you say, how does it show up? Well, it shows up this way. Number one, you can see if you watch any Falcons game, it's almost impossible, it seems like, not only Kyle Pitts, for any Falcons receiver to get any separation. I know a lot of it has to do with play calling. A lot of it has to do with much time that the offensive line gives Desmond Ridder. But at the end of the day, it also has limited his ability, the willingness, I should say, to make the tough catch. The contested catch, the catch where you know that you're going to get hit over the middle. He's not really, if you watch him, he's not really extending himself because I think that he's trying to avoid injuring himself any further. You don't see him, excuse me, make the kind of plays or attempts the plays that you'll see a Lord have mercy. Excuse me, my throat is just going bananas here. You don't see him making the stretch plays that you see Drake London. Drake London's had some spectacular catches in traffic. And don't be wrong, Kyle Pitts made some great catches these last couple of weeks, but I think if the Falcons had kept him out until like last week or this week, I think we see a Kyle Pitts that was closer to what we saw against, in that season where he was a Pro Bowl, his rookie season. So that's the first thing I think the Falcons should not have done. Second thing about this team is that Arthur Smith has got to stop out coaching himself. One of the things that I tell people all the time in this show, you hear me every week say, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And I know that the people say, okay, against the Jets, they didn't run the ball that well. It's irrelevant. The idea is that's kind of your thing. That's your brand. Power running football. You're in the top 7, I believe, in the league, and definitely in the top 10 in the league in rushing. Why are you trying to do something else? Especially when you have a quarterback that has shown that up to this point, he still is having some difficulties throwing the football. It's just what it is. Desmond Ridder last week, 12 of 27, 121 yards, 1 touchdown pass, and thank God, no interceptions, no turnovers. And I get it. You say, well, Preacher, the running attack was kind of stymied. I think we only had a total of last week on the ground against the Jets. We only were able to eke out 90 rushing yards. So you're 60 yards below your average. But again, I don't care about that. The realities is that it was a sloppy track. You have a situation where your players this is what we do best. Yep. Was it tough sledding? But I don't care about that. What rushing the ball does this. It's almost like watching a boxer. A boxer throws a lot of body blows that don't necessarily do anything in those first few rounds. But what happens is later on in the fight, it's an accumulation of the punches that take its toll. And that's why the Falcons in the games they've won have been able to close out games and win games late using the rushing attack, because all of a sudden Tyler Algiers becomes like a hammer. And it becomes very difficult to stop because teams have been worn down. Let's go to social media. Todd says pitch is hurt or something wrong. He runs at half speed. Yeah, he's hurt. I mean, that's why to me, it's dumb that the Falcons would play this guy when he's not 100%, especially when you have tight ends like Pruitt, like Jonnu Smith, have acquitted themselves very, very well at the tight end position. I'm not playing a guy who potentially, I'll put a word here, and who has shown signs of being a Pro Bowl type quarterback and tight end, and a guy that could basically be a stalwart on your team for years to come. I'm not playing him. It'd be one thing if his playing at 70% puts you at still amongst the best of NFL starters. If you still kind of saying, hey man, he may not be an all pro, but he's a very, very good player. But Pitts, that's really not the case. I mean, he's been, like I said, I don't even know if he's had the best deep tight end performance on the Falcons. I'm being honest. So for me, you're doing Pitts a disservice by making him play when he's not 100%. So that's my first take. Second take, like I said, again, I'm going to go back to what I've said this whole season. The Falcons are a team, if they will continue to run the ball and run the ball. This is, to me, the stats. The Falcons, I think, they run the ball anywhere between 35 to 40 times a game, me personally. It's a preach, that's crazy. You're only getting 50 or 60, touches. I don't care. I remember Smith came on and said, Coach Arthur Smith came on and said something about, hey, I don't want to play, military academy football. I don't want to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We don't get style points here. This is one of the problems with the city of Atlanta. It's all about style. Well, do you want rings? Do you want championships? Do you want wins? Or do you want to be, out here, as my buddy said from Memphis, Vincent Turner, flogging? This is not here for show. We're here to win. Because guess what? If you win, everybody's going to have a good time. Now, as much as I disliked the overall play of the Jets game, 13-8, especially by the offense, I should say, the defense acquitted themselves well. The special teams did very well. And like Arthur Smith and like Desmond Ridder come on every week and say, well, it's a team game. So I'm like, okay, if it's a team game, guess what? Guess what? The bottom line is run the ball, because that's what we do best. We'll go to social media one more time before we wrap up. Todd says the kid from Utah is by far our best runner. Run him 30 times. Todd's talking about, of course, Tyler Algiers. Dave Archer has called him the hammer. And yeah, listen, see, this is what I mean about when you outsmart yourself. I like Bijan Robinson. I think that he's a guy that can be I guess, Cordell Patterson light, because he's not as physical as Cordell Patterson, but he has all the same skills, and he's probably a better catcher of the ball, especially balls that are not thrown well, which our quarterbacks have a tendency to. But the realities are, if you look at just the ability to get yards, especially yards after contact, there's no question Tyler Algiers is like a hammer. But again, you don't need a bell cow back. Let both guys touch the ball 15, 20 times a game. That's why I said run the ball 40 times. I don't care. Get 20 touches to Algiers, get 20 more to Bijan Robinson, get 10 more to Cordell Patterson. I'm telling you, boys and girls, that's a formula for victory. And if you want to get the 45 touches, toss in maybe you might want to take maybe 5 away from Bijan and maybe toss in 5 for Desmond Ridder, because that's the other secret to Falcons wins. They need to run more of those RPOs, because teams have to then account for the quarterback. Duh. All right, it's time to go. For those of you, especially those of you listening on WIGO 1570, we have another show coming behind us, so we don't want to monopolize all the airtime. Well, we do, but we can't. So we want to sign off here now and let you guys know, first of all, follow us on social media. I'll mention that one more time. You can do that by following me on the show. Social media is Real Talk Sports, the number 7. You see it right up there anywhere on social media. That's where you can find the show. You can follow me personally at Minister J. Sim, especially if you want something inspirational, because you hear me refer to myself as the minister. That's because I really am. That's why I'm a real live licensed minister. I didn't get off the cereal box. I am a true believer in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I want to inform you and encourage you. If you do not know him as your personal savior, you got to get this done. I mean, you just have to do it. Number one, he loves you. Loves you more than anybody else. More your auntie, your bae, your boo, grandmama, and them. He loves you because he made you, and then he died for you. And then last of all, he actually rose from the dead. And because of that, if you repent of your sin and believe in him, two great things happen. Number one, you become a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. And number two, an adoptive child of God. For those of you watching at WIGO, sorry I couldn't do the full sign off. God bless you and have a great day. For those of you on social media, remember, follow us on social media at Real Talk Sports and number 7. And remember, get to know Jesus Christ, your personal Savior, because that's your entryway into heaven, a great life here on the earth, and you avoid that nasty place called hell. I don't know about you, but like option number 1 instead of option number 2. All right, guys, until the next time we get back together again, God bless you and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, whichever may apply. So long, and God bless.